let's talk about log lines and explain how they can be used as a plot device to help you develop your story. All right, so let's take a look at that. Log lines are a one-sentence summary that captures the plot. It's really important to think about your story that way, especially in the development phase. Sometimes we can get lost in the minutia of creating characters, having too many things going on, too many competing interests in our mind. We have a lot of things that we're trying to put together. Maybe we're visual people, we're very creative, so we have a lot of great ideas. And so we're trying to decide, what's most important? How do we prioritize what the story is? How do we simplify and really get down to the essence of your story? So, if your story cannot be summarized in a one sentence log line, then you've got a problem and you really don't know what your story is yet. So, this is an editing process to go through it and to simplify and to craft and to hone in on what really matters. Here's some key points to remember when thinking about your log line and your plot points. You got to cover these four things essentially. What happens that kicks off the story? Who's your main character? Who's the protagonist? What do they want? And then what's the obstacle or the person in their way? You really got to think it through. And this can apply to many different story types. All right. So it's not just, kind of that heroic story. This could happen and be written for a romantic comedy. So you can figure out the motivation of your character and the basic plot by using this device. Essentially, you need to make sure that your log line looks something like this. When inciting incident happens, our protagonist decides to do what against what. It's that simple, right? You got to really think about what makes that happen, why it happens, and then what happens. That makes it compelling. If you can't answer these questions or fill in those gaps or play this little game of ad libs, then there's something wrong with your story and you gotta kind of got to go back to the drawing board. Here's an example. After his father is murdered, a cub decides to reclaim the Pride Lands against his uncle. What is that? Lion King. Of course, there's lots of other things that are in the Lion King story. There are lots of other characters in the Lion King story. There could even be subplots and other little pieces of things going on. There's a romance in the Lion King, right? But the basic story arc follows that initial conflict and the development of that main character and their story arc. Sometimes you have two characters that are competing in your mind and you're thinking, well, who's really the protagonist? Somebody has to be the primary and somebody has to be the secondary if you've got those competing interests. Here's another one. A family of superheroes undercovers, sorry, a family of superheroes undercover and trying to live a quiet suburban life for many years are forced to use their powers in order to save the world from a covert threat. Obviously, The Incredibles, right? Again, the story itself, in my mind, is awesome. I love it. It's funny, it's got heart, but as an adventure, and so there's a lot of fun things going on that create the complete picture of the story. But essentially, the story knows what it is. It's superheroes living undercover, trying to live that quiet suburban life and stay out of trouble, but they're forced to, as a family, to save the world from that threat, right? Basic understanding of that plot. Here's a couple of mine. Let's see how they shape up. A stray coyote leads an oddball group of misfit pets as they defend their suburban backyard from threats both foreign and domesticated. I had a lot of fun writing that one, frankly. I'm really proud of that foreign and domesticated line. In any case, this is my story, Stray, about a coyote with a wild imagination and the first adventure that he goes on to defend the suburban backyard from the rascally raccoons. Now, notice in that little log line, I didn't really define the names or the characters or even the threat. I kind of left it open-ended. That's a way of explaining how this story could be serialized in the future. It's a basic log line of what it is and what it's about. Here's another one, my latest one. A young samurai, betrayed and murdered by his brother in arms over the love of a beautiful geisha, returns to life through the mystic arts as Ninja Pig, the swine shinobi hellbent on revenge. Fun. I had a lot of fun with that one too. Now, Ninja Pig has been floating around in my head for a long time, and I decided to try to come up with a real story for him. Frankly, I drew the character for the first time in middle school, and it was just my version of the turtles. I wanted to draw a little Ninja Pig. I thought it was funny. There was no story, there was no depth to him. So when I started writing my story this year, I started trying to think, okay, what is it really about? How do I add some meat to this? And so that's Ninja Pig. He's a ninja, he's a pig. What does he want? Revenge. So keep those plot points simple, keep them clear so your audience understands what they're reading. And the more you focus on that log line and you really, shave it down, sand it down to what really matters, that's going to make your story stand out better. And it's going to help you, I think, build the rest of the world around it. All right. So good luck with that.